Welcome everyone. My name is Alejandro Beltis. I am an advisor, Education USA advisor, based in Lima, Peru. Uh, Today's webinar is going to be about the offer that gives us McCourt School of Public Policy regarding their programs. But first, I want to introduce you to Education USA and what's our role in the whole application process to a US university. Okay, so today's agenda is first I'm going to talk about Education USA, our role, the 5 steps to apply to a US higher institution. Then I'll talk a little bit briefly about the centers in Peru, our social media, how you can contact an advisor, and then I'll pass it on to Lindsey from McCourt School of Public Policy to talk about what she has to offer to you today. All right, and then at the end we'll do some questions. All right. Okay. So what is Education USA? Education USA is the official source of information regarding U.S. higher education in the United States. So we are an international network financed and sponsored by the U.S. Department of the State. Our mission is to provide complete and accurate information regarding the steps needed to apply to a U.S. university and to be able to be admitted and to go to the U.S. to do your higher education. As of right now, the network is we have 400 more than 400 centers around the globe where an Education USA advisor is actively giving this information, which, as I told you, it's reliable, it's precise, and it's complete. All right, now the 5 steps. So before considering going to the US and applying to a US university, there are some steps that you need to follow to have a proper admission, so that you are sure that you will be admitted, or at least have some kind of knowledge on how and what you should do to apply. The first step is researching your options. During this first step, you should evaluate all the available options that you have. In the US, we have more than 4,000 universities where it's possible for you to apply. So these universities are for different kinds of profiles, different kinds of students. They have different characteristics, and so you should consider which ones are the ones that you should be applying based on different factors, such as what you're trying to study, location, exams, the level of difficulty that it is to be admitted, how selective the university is. The second step is financing your education. So you should, during this step, you should consider what are your financing options. How and where will you find the financial resources needed to study at the U.S. university? As most of you may know, studying at a U.S. higher institution, it could be quite expensive. So you should be looking for how much is it that you need to pay, and then you should also consider what kind of financial support can the university give you, and how to apply, and how to be considered for this financial support. The third step, the third step The third step is now that you know or have an idea of where you should apply, where you want to apply, now you have to consider what are the requirements needed to apply. This could vary from international exams, recommendation letters, essays, and various other things that we as an advisor, myself as an advisor, can give you at an advising session or during general talks. Then the fourth step is how to solicit or apply for your visa. In order to be able to go to study to the US, you need to apply to an F1 or J1 visa, which is for only for students. And then the fifth and last step is how and what you should know before you leave to the US. So after you've applied to the university, you got admission, you decided where you want to study, and then you've applied for your visa, got your visa, then the last step should be what are you going to have to confront once you're in the US? The differences in culture, what you should do and what you shouldn't do. So this is the pre-departure orientation, and it's the fifth and last step. All right. Now, how can you get more information? How can you go into further detail about the 5 steps? Is by contacting an EducationUSA advisor, the closest to you. In Peru, we have 11 advisors, 9 centers for you so that you know where the spaces are located. These centers are located. You can always message us at our Facebook, EducationUSA Peru. This is where you will locate, and you can ask the information directly. You can also always go to our website, our main website, which is educationusa.state.gov, and then there you will go to the specific place where there's all the database of centers around the globe. You can also always check our YouTube channel, where you'll find various videos and recordings of webinars that we've done in the past regarding different aspects of the process, and webinars that we've done with different universities, like the one we're doing today. This one is being recorded, and this webinar will be shared on our YouTube channel and also on our EducationUSA Peru Facebook page. And then we also have an Instagram account where you will see all the pictures that we share regarding our events. We're always trying to do virtual events, but also in-person events. So if you're close to an EducationUSA center and you contact an advisor, you can know what are the opportunities, what opportunities are being offered throughout the year regarding events, how to meet with US universities that are coming to Peru to recruit students as well. All right, with that, I want to introduce you to Lindsey, who's representing the McCourt School of Public Policy at Georgetown University, one of the most prestigious universities and most well-known universities for anything related to public policy, international relations. So please, Lindsey, you may start. She's the Assistant Director of Admissions, by the way, at McCourt School of Public Policy. All right.
Thank you, Alejandro. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Awesome. Okay, great. So yes, I'm Lindsey. I'm the Assistant Director of Admissions here at the McCourt School. I've been at the McCourt School since about February of this year, so not quite a full year yet. But I've been at Georgetown for about 8 years and was at the law school previously working in their admissions office. I also am a graduate student, alumni of the MBA program here, so I have experienced Georgetown's graduate education and graduate student life here. So coming from a little bit of a few different perspectives. I also have one of our Peruvian alumni with me. Her name is Ingrid. I'm going to kind of ask her to talk a little bit more about her experience at McCourt towards the end of the presentation. So I'll hand it over to her then. Let's see. Okay, great. So I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with Georgetown University. I'm not really sure how many people have heard of McCourt School of Public Policy specifically. McCourt School, we just changed our name because we received a large gift from one of our alumnus, Frank McCourt, about 5 years ago. So some people think we're a new school, but actually we've been in existence since the 90s. So we were, before the McCourt School, we were the Georgetown Public Policy Institute. So we've been doing this for a while now. So we are a public policy school. It's a top-ranked public policy school located in the center of the policy world, so in DC. Lots of networking opportunities, lots of things going on related to public policy within walking distance of campus. Our mission here is to teach our students to help them design, analyze, and implement smart policies and put them into practice in the public, private, and nonprofit sectors in the US and around the world. So the picture on the left there is kind of right in the front gates of Georgetown. So if you haven't visited, this is probably one of the most iconic buildings on main campus. McCourt is actually located right behind. This is Healy Hall. McCourt is in Old North building that's right behind Healy. It's actually one of the oldest buildings on campus. And there's a set of stairs that's connected to the Old North building that are actually pretty famous. 13 of our presidents have given speeches from those steps, from George Washington to Abraham Lincoln, all the way to Barack Obama. So we definitely attract some pretty well-known people to Georgetown and to campus. So all of our students have access to lots of events and speakers as well. So I'm basically going to kind of review our programs, kind of give like a general overview of all of our program offerings. I'm not going to go into super specifics on the curriculum, but there are slides on the website, or there's slides in this presentation, and then also information on the website about specific classes, and you can dive and get more information if you're interested. But since we have a limited time and I want to kind of give time for questions and to talk with Ingrid, I'm going to kind of do a little bit of a general overview. So we do have 4 programs at McCourt. McCourt is a graduate school only, meaning we don't serve undergraduate or doctoral populations. So all of our services that we provide really kind of focus on our graduate students. So that's definitely something we think is important and want our prospective applicants to know, that they'll have plenty of support and resources during their time here. Our flagship program is the Masters of Public Policy. It's our largest program. We do have a full-time program and an evening option, so the MPP EP, so you can do it part-time as well. And we have several dual degree options that coincide with the MPP. So you can do an MPP and a JD, an MPP and an MBA, an MPP with the Masters of Foreign Service. So those are options as well. All of the application process for those are completely separate. So you would go through each school, and then once admitted to each program, you would then become a joint degree student. We then have our Masters of International Development Policy. It's a full-time only program. It's a little bit more specialized than our Masters of Public Policy. So it's going to be a little bit more core heavy. You're going to have more international development focus in all of your courses. And then our newest program is the Master of Science and Data Science for Public Policy. So we've teamed up with our Masters of Data Analytics program to do more of a combined program where half of the program is coming from data analytics and half is coming from McCourt. So this is a really little bit more for higher level technical students with higher level technical abilities, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. And then finally, we have our Master in Policy Management. This is our program for mid-career professionals, and we look for students that have at least 5 years of significant policy or managerial experience. So on average, though, our students tend to have close to 10 years. So it really is for kind of people with a little bit more experience. So here is kind of an overview of our MPP curriculum. Like I mentioned, it is McCourt's flagship program. So it's our largest program with 125 students enrolling each year full-time and then about 20 students enrolling part-time. It's 48 credit hours, so it's a 2-year full-time program, 3-year part-time program. You'll have 30 credit hours of core coursework, and then you'll have 18 credit hours of electives. So you'll see that the core coursework is outlined in the first top three boxes, and then you'll have a capstone requirement, and then you'll have your 18 credit hours of electives. So we are a quantitatively rigorous program. That's something that we really focus on and take a lot of pride in and think we do really well. We do require a 3-course quantitative methods sequence in the core coursework. So it really signals to the market that McCourt students are ready to go out into the job market, prepared to, I guess, analyze data, pull data, communicate about data as it relates to driving evidence-based policy decisions. So it's something that we're seeing is increasingly important in the policy world, and so we want to make sure our students have the skills to succeed and be competitive candidates for those positions. You have the option in the capstone to do either an individual thesis or a client-based project, which is more of a consulting project where McCourt will come up with organizations, and you'll work with a group with an actual organization on some sort of policy issue or problem, and you'll do research and do data analysis and provide them recommendations at the end of the capstone, and that would be like your presentation would be kind of like your thesis paper. So you have the choice of doing one or the other. We don't have any formal concentrations for the MPP. However, we do see a lot of students using their electives to focus on a certain policy area of interest, say health policy, environmental policy, education policy. So you can tailor this program to kind of meet your interests, or you could dabble in a couple different policy areas, or focus on more quantitative skill building in those electives. So it's really up to you, and you do have most of your first year to kind of figure that out, because most of your first year is your core coursework with 2 electives. So you could also come in thinking you want to specialize in health policy and then totally change your mind in the first year, and that is 100% fine. We have lots of students that do that. Also, as a part of McCourt, you have access in your electives to take electives at other Georgetown graduate programs, and it would count back to your MPP credit hours. So if you see an elective at the Foreign Service School or the law school or the MBA school that you'd like to take, you can work with your academic advisor here at McCourt, and they will work with their contact at the other school to try and get you enrolled in that course. And usually they're able to, unless it's a super popular course for some reason and it's full. But that's a great benefit of being at Georgetown. Then also we have a consortium agreement with other local DC area schools. So it's George Mason, George Washington, Howard, and American, and then we're the 5th one, where if they offer an elective that McCourt doesn't offer, you can also work with your academic advisor and possibly enroll in one of those electives, and it would count back towards your total 48 credit hours. So that's kind of the MPP curriculum in a nutshell. Definitely more information on the website, so I encourage you to check that out. So moving on to the MIDP curriculum, this program is a smaller program. It's a small cohort of about 20 students each year that come in. It is a more specialized program. It's only a full-time program, so 2 years full-time. It's a little bit more core heavy, so you don't have as many electives. You have 12 credit hours of electives instead of 18. And this is because you're already selecting to do more of a specialized program. So all of your core courses are going to have some sort of international development spin or example. And then I think your electives is where you can kind of really focus in on a specific area if you'd like to. And then for the capstone, you only have the option of doing a client-based project. there's no thesis option. And additionally, there is a summer experience requirement for this program. So it's a required internship between your first and second year. The MPP doesn't have the requirement, but I'll get to this later in the presentation. There's a ton of internship opportunities that our MPP students, most of them take advantage of at least one. So those are kind of the main differences between the MIDP curriculum and the MPP curriculum. One other thing to note, one additional prerequisite for MIDP is that we do require 2 years of postgraduate relevant international development work experience, just because this is such a specialized program that we want to make sure students that are enrolling in the program know that that's what they want to do once they graduate, because you are going to be solely focused on international development policy and don't really have the option to do any domestic policy courses during your core. So this is the new program. It's our Master's of Science in Data Science for Public Policy. It's a tongue twister. So like I mentioned, it is a new program that we've developed with our Master's of Data Analytics program. It is a 39 credit hour program. This doesn't mean that it's any less rigorous than our MPP or MIDP programs that are 48 credit hours. It just means the courses that you are going to be taking are a little bit more of a heavy lift. So look at, you're going to be taking accelerated statistics for public policy 1 and 2. So that'll be over 2 semesters, but it's actually more like 3 courses. So it's just accelerated. So we're building in time outside of the classroom that you'll have to do preparatory work or study for exams and work in groups, because it is a little bit of a higher level for the quantitative and technical coursework. You'll then have, you don't have very many electives, 6 credit hours of electives. You'll participate in a data science and action seminar series. We do, one thing to point out, the data visualization, that is a required course for the MS DSPP program. It's an elective for our MPP and MIDP program, but it's a very popular elective. But for this, we are seeing that even though students in data analytics really have a high level of tech knowledge, don't necessarily know how to communicate it to folks that aren't at that level. So this course is really going to be focusing on how to present evidence and data in a digestible way. So it helps with some communication skills as well. And then also we touch on ethics and law. So, I think that's important and increasingly important as we have access to tons of data, just kind of talking about the ethical issues and that surround data. So that is our newest program. We are really excited. It's our first cohort this fall. So we're hoping for at least, I think, 25 students, but we've seen a lot of interest, so that might change depending on application numbers and strength of application. So it is also a 2-year full-time program. We don't have an evening option. And then there is no capstone requirement for this. So we kind of have added the data science and action seminars. Because it's a new program, we just didn't feel like we had the resources to add the capstone this year, but eventually there's talk of adding one. But yeah, we're excited about this program. And then finally, our NPM curriculum. So this is our curriculum for mid-career professionals. Students on average have about 9 to 10 years of policy experience. So this is a little bit higher level curriculum, so big picture, leadership, management. It's not going to be as in-depth in the data courses, so you're going to be doing some research methods and economic analysis for public policy, but it's really because we want you to kind of understand if someone's presenting you with an idea for a better policy or program, that you know how to ask the right questions and look at the right information in order to make the decisions whether or not to give it a go or go ahead and say that I don't think this is a good idea. So how we kind of describe our NPM graduates, they tend to be managers of our NPP graduates. So this is a 36 credit hour program, and you can start it in summer or in the fall, and it goes for 1 calendar year. So it is a little bit shorter of a program. And you have two options to either start the program in the summer or the fall. And that's NPM. So I'm going to kind of move on and segue into career development at McCourt, because I know this is definitely something that most people are interested in. Since you're looking at graduate schools, and that's a big investment, time and money-wise. We do have a career development office that is dedicated to our McCourt students. So you're not competing for their resources with undergraduate students or other graduate programs. And you also have access to Georgetown University's career development office as well. So you really have two different resources to tap into for all things related to your career and job process. So at McCourt, we have 3 dedicated staff members, and they are available for career advising and individual counseling appointments. And the reason that we call this career development instead of career services is because this isn't a placement office, so it really is what the student puts into it. We encourage our students to start conversations with our development team as soon as they arrive on campus. So during orientation, there's a whole session dedicated to career development and what services they provide and kind of their timeline of where they suggest you be in your job search process, because the job search starts also your first semester and it goes throughout your 2 years. So you're not going to, in April before graduation, have your first appointment with career development. We do not advise that. So we encourage you to kind of start those conversations early, because the more they know you, the more they can help you. And if they see something that might be of interest to you, a job or an internship, they might tell you, like, personally, like, hey, I'm about to post this to our jobs website. It's something you might want to take a look at. So those personal interactions are very important. They also post internship and job announcements, which you'll have access to. Career events, so we have job fairs, employer information sessions that are on campus, professional development workshops. Those are just kind of working groups on, say, maybe interview skills or negotiation skills, kind of like salary negotiations, some stuff like that. And then we have McCourt Connects, which is an online jobs database, which you'll have access to, and you can kind of go in and take a look at the postings and see what might be of interest to you and apply if you're interested through, I think, the online platform. They do help with interview prep for jobs and do mock interviews. So they actually bring some alums back to do these mock interviews. So say you're interested in a specific organization that another one of our alumni work there, so they can try to set you up with them so they can do the mock interview, and they've gone through the process, so they can actually give you a lot of insider information on kind of what the interview process looks like and how to prepare. They do a lot of resume, cover letter reviews, so helping you put together your resume. Also, your cover letter is kind of your writing sample for organizations, because a lot of policy jobs, they do kind of look for those writing skills. So there's a lot of feedback that they can give you for your cover letter to kind of help you stand out. Tons of networking opportunities. Like I mentioned, they bring employers to campus. They also do like alumni mixers. So last Thursday, we invited a lot of alumni to campus. I think there was like 100 alumni that came, and also invited current students. And we had it in our conference room here at Old North, and they were just able to kind of mingle over drinks and appetizers and kind of talk to people that are McCourt graduates working mostly in the DC area. I think we're the majority of alums that were able to come, but we do have a global alumni network. So we do have a high percentage of international students. I think this past year we had about 35% of our students were international that entered the fall 2017 class, and came from over 30 countries. So a lot of times, because it is a natural transition, so people do tend to stay in the DC area short term, but especially for international students, they a lot of times go back to their home countries eventually to work. And then we also have alumni across the US as well, from Boston to Chicago, San Francisco, LA, Midwest, southern states as well. So it's just a very globalized network, and our alumni tend to be very, very loyal and willing to help out fellow McCourt alum as well. So that's a great network to be a part of. Where do our graduates go? I think I mentioned a little bit earlier in the slides, 90% of our students do at least one internship during their time at McCourt. 35 to 40% do 3 to 4. So if you're not sure what you like to do, or you're really kind of looking for that networking and getting your foot in the door opportunities, graduate school is a safe environment to do that. And so a lot of people take advantage of, trying on a few different positions or functions or jobs in different sectors, just to kind of figure out what they like and what they don't like, so they have a better idea when they're looking for that full-time job at the time of graduation. 91% of our students are employed or have accepted an offer 6 months after graduation. The ones that are still seeking employment tend to mostly are those that are taking government jobs and waiting on their government clearance to come through. So it is a very high percentage of students that are employed soon after graduation. So that's something we're really proud of. Employment by sector, it's really kind of split into thirds. A third go into the public sector, a third go into the private sector, and a third go into the nonprofit sector. This usually changes by year depending on the economy, political climate, our general interest areas of our students that year, so it could fluctuate. And then also we understand that you're probably not going to have the same job for your entire career, so a lot of times in your career you'll most likely be fluctuating between these sectors, so that's why we put an emphasis on equipping our students with the skills that they need to easily transition between the sectors. In addition, if you're working in a private sector, the likelihood, if you're in a policy role, of working with a public or nonprofit organization is very high. So you're going to be interacting with these sectors throughout your career. So it really is important to kind of have the foundation and the skills that will allow you to be successful in all sectors. Employment by geographic location, I mentioned this briefly. This is just 6 months after graduation, so keep that in mind. It is a natural transition for students to stay in the DC area just because there's tons of policy organizations, and it's kind of the policy hub. So, and also if you've been doing an internship, you might get a job offer, so it might make sense just to stay in the DC area for a while. But we do have people going elsewhere as they continue on in their career. So again, providing us with that global alumni network. Admissions requirements. So this is also all available on our website. I'm not sure if you guys are applying this year or in a subsequent year, but they tend to be the same and around the same deadlines each year as well. But just check our website before you start the application so you can get the most up-to-date information. So we do take a holistic approach when we review applications. So we're going to look at everything you submit to us. We don't use numerical cutoffs. So we're going to look at your application. It's $90 to apply. We'll ask for a resume or CV. We don't have a preference. An academic statement, this is a really important piece of your application. It's something you should put some thought and spend some time on. There is a question or prompt on our website and on the application, and it's different per program. So I would encourage you guys to take a look at that and start formulating kind of an outline or ideas on what to talk about. But we're really looking for students that can articulate their passion for public policy, why they're pursuing an NPP at this point in their career, kind of what has sparked their interest, and then also why they're looking and applying to McCourt specifically. Because we want to make sure we're a good fit for you just as much as you're a good fit for us. So that's a really important way, and kind of the main piece where we're really getting a sense of as you an individual. So kind of talking about like what might set you apart from the typical applicant, And also I mentioned the quantitative rigor that's involved in the MPP program. So if you could also speak to maybe sharing that philosophy as well, so that you also recognize that it's important to build those skills to drive evidence-based policy decisions. I think that that is important to tie in as well. So yeah, that's a very important piece, and we do read every single one of them, and it can make an applicant stand out to us. So take some time on that. Transcripts, we will need official transcripts from all of the universities that you've attended. If you did study abroad and the courses and grades are not listed on your degree granting institution's transcripts, we'll need transcripts from your study abroad courses. These need to be sent directly from the university to McCourt in a sealed envelope, so it cannot be issued to the student. So they can't give it to you and you open it and then you send it along to us. If they do give it to you, it has to be in a sealed envelope with their university seal or stamp on the seal, so we know that the student hasn't opened it. We'll also accept transcripts from like accreditation services such as WES, so you can send all your materials to them and they'll put together a report for us and send us all the materials for us to include in your application. So that's also accepted. We do require a TOEFL or IELTS score for non-native English speakers. The average score we tend to see is about a 104, but we do require a minimum of 100. If you're below that, it's possible we would still accept you, but we would definitely have to kind of look at the rest of your application and maybe do an interview to kind of gauge your English speaking abilities. 3 letters of recommendation. We prefer one academic and one professional. However, if you've been out of school for a number of years and don't really feel like your professors or academic references are that strong and they can't really speak as well as maybe professional recommendation could, just ask one of your professional recommenders to touch on some academic skill sets that you have that they've observed during your time working together. So say critical thinking, data analysis, writing, those sorts of skills. And then we do require standardized test scores. So we'll accept for the MPP, we'll accept the GRE, GMAT, or LSAT. The MIDP and MSDSPP programs require the GRE or GMAT, but the GRE is strongly preferred. And then for the NPM, there is no test score requirement, just because we're going to look a little bit more at your work experience because you have at least 5 years. Again, we do not use numerical cutoffs. However, on average, our students tend to have a 3.5 undergraduate GPA, and on the GRE, the averages are about 159, 160 in quantitative and verbal, and then a 4.2 in analytical writing. So also keep in mind that those averages include non-native English speakers as well as domestic students. If you feel like you are, the way we look at it when we're looking at holistic, if you feel like maybe you're lower or your application is weaker in one area, you can always strengthen it in another area. There is no work experience requirement for the MPP. However, if you have work experience, it can help you. So if you're feeling like you're a little bit lower on those averages but have a few years of work experience, that could be beneficial to your application. So we really are looking at everything you submit to us. Quickly, prerequisites, our MPP and MIDP program, we do require a Principles of Microeconomics course. There's a list of key concepts on our website that I would encourage you to take a look at if you're not sure if you meet that prereq. You don't have to take it before applying. You can apply and be admitted conditionally, meaning you would just need to take it before you start orientation and receive a B. You take it for a grade from an accredited university and receive a letter grade of a B or higher, and that would meet the requirement. For our newest program, the data science program, we do require a college level calculus course and then some sort of evidence of technical ability, whether it be in your coursework or your professional experience, so computer science, advanced mathematics, or statistics. So we're looking for a little bit more higher level tech people for that program. Work experience, I've touched on this. The only two that require work experience, the MIDP program. I'm sorry. The MIDP program requires 2 years of relevant postgraduate professional experience, and then the NPM requires 5 years of professional work experience. And then for the MPP, there is no work experience requirement. On average, our students tend to have 2 to 3 years. But we have students coming straight from undergrad, students that have worked it for a couple of years, and not necessarily in a policy setting, and are using the MPP as a way to pivot into policy. And then we have students that have always known they wanted to work in policy and have some work experience, and then are using this as a career enhancer. Finally, deadlines and scholarship opportunities. Our priority deadline is January 15th. And so if you'd like to be considered for merit-based scholarships, you should apply by this deadline. As long as your application is in by January 15th and the rest of your materials are in by mid-February, you will be considered for the priority deadline. And then our final deadline is April 1, 2017. So for merit-based, I'll quickly talk about this because I know this is of interest to folks. We do offer partial tuition scholarships from admissions. They're based on your regular application materials. It's not a separate application process as long as you apply by January 15th. They can range from about $7,500 a year to $25,000 a year. Our average award is $17,000 a year, and then 60% of our students come in with some sort of merit-based funding. We also have students that have outside sponsors or employers that sponsor them that can go in combination with those awards. And then, you know, if you're admitted to McCourt, we really want to try to make it feasible for you to attend. So you'll receive your scholarship decisions along with your admissions decisions, and then we'll give everyone a deadline at that point. And we'll, you know, depending on how many people accept and how many people decline, it's a possibility that we'd have additional funding to reallocate after that deadline. So definitely some scholarship opportunities. We have 5 full tuition scholarships that include full tuition, a stipend, and mandatory academic fees, and those are called our McCourt Scholars. And those students are selected, are nominated based on their regular application materials, and then go through a short interview process, and then are awarded and selected as McCourt Scholars. So those are our deadlines and scholarship opportunities. And then we do have, I think, one of our Peruvian alums, Ingrid. She's an MIDP 2016 alum. So I'm going to kind of turn it over to her and ask her to introduce herself, and then kind of talk a little bit about her student experience at McCourt. Hi, Ingrid, are you there?
Hear me? Hi.
Hi, Ingrid. I can hear you.
Oh, okay, perfect. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So as Lindsey was saying, I graduated from the MIDP program over a year ago. So a little bit about myself. I am from Lima, and I went to Universidad del Pacífico. I studied economics, and then I worked for over 4 years at Apoyo Consultoría. I was at the public management and applied economics units. Also, the MIDP program at Georgetown University is my second master's degree in the States. First, I studied MPA at the Maxwell School in Syracuse University. So, in my particular case, the MIDP program was exactly what I was looking for, because after the MPA at Maxwell School, I felt that I needed to complement that program with a program that was very focused on quantitative skills, especially impact evaluation. So in that sense, the MIDP program was perfect for me. As Lindsey was mentioning before, the MPP is also quantitative focus. I think that's a distinctive thing of a distinctive characteristic of the programs at the McCourt School of Public Policy. But the difference between the two programs, I would say, is not only that the MIDP, as the name say, is more international development focus, is also that there is more emphasis on impact evaluation. So if you are interested in that topic, then that's the program for you. If you are not that interested in that topic, then probably the MPP will be a better fit, in the sense that it's not that focused on impact evaluation, even though it will provide you with a very good background in quantitative skills.
Yeah. So, and I just wanted to point out, sorry, Ingrid, with the MPP, you can focus your studies on international policy. So during the core, you get the choice of doing a domestic track or international track, and then you can focus your electives on international development policy or international policy if that's what you choose. So you have the option to do that in the MPP program as well, if you're not wanting to focus as much on international development. So, sorry, back to you, Ingrid.
No, that's good. Okay, so now to talk a bit what I've been doing after graduation. So I'm still in DC. I live here. I was working right after graduation. I was working as a research associate at Georgetown. So I continue like going to school almost every week, even after I graduated. And now I am still working at the school, but now it's a very different role. Now I'm a TA, that's a teaching assistant. Probably in Peru is known as Jefe de Prácticas. At least that's how it was called, Universidad del Pacífico. So I'm at the TA of 2 impact evaluation for the MIDP and the Quant 3, that is the name for the MPP class. So I'm TA of 2 classes. And I'm also working as a research consultant at the International Initiative for Impact Evaluation. So as you can see, after I finished the MIDP, I was able to get the kind of jobs that I was looking for when I decided to start this program. So I knew that what I wanted to do was something related to impact evaluation. So during my year at McCourt, working as a research associate at McCourt, actually I was working on a project for the conditional cash transfer program in Mexico. We were working on the design of an impact evaluation there. So that was the year right after graduation. And right now, as a research consultant at this NGO that I was telling you about, I'm also involved with impact evaluation, especially quantitative impact evaluation. So, yeah, if you have any questions, just let me know. I'm here. I'm happy to answer.
Yes, we can go ahead and open it up to participants for questions about the programs or student experience, and Ingrid and I are happy to answer those.
Oh, I forgot that. I'm so sorry. I forgot to talk about the student experience. That is super important. So one thing that could be, I don't know, like cool for Peruvian students is to know that, so during my year in McCourt, with a group of let's say 10 Latino students, we found we created It's called LAPA, Latin American Policy Association. So it's mainly a group of students, and then we are in charge of we were in charge of organizing like events with politicians or people with more like technical background that were working, I don't know, like for example the IDB, since the IDB is here in DC. So yeah, that was a cool thing. Right now there is a Peruvian student that she just started the MIDP program, and right now she's a part of LAPA too. So that's one thing that I think it was like a plus during my academic experience there. Also, one thing that LAPA organizes and that I think is very, very cool is, I don't know if they are also going to do it next year, but for the past 2 years, LAPA has been organizing student trips. So the first time we went to the Dominican Republic, and last year they went to Mexico. So mainly you go there, and then you have meetings with high-level officials. We had meetings with a minister and one vice minister, and people working in NGOs, in think tanks, and it was the same when they went to Mexico. So that was cool too. Another thing that I would say is very important, and for me that was also a big thing when I was kind of deciding where to study my second master's, is the fact that so Georgetown is in DC, and as Lindsey was saying, so for example, like she was mentioning that presidents that have visiting McCourt, so that old North building. I think that's mainly because we are right here, we're in DC, so the White House is, probably not, I mean, it's like 10-minute ride probably. So we also have, like I was saying, the IDB, ELBIT. We also have the World Bank. We have lots of think tanks, and they are always holding events that you can attend. I was attending as a student. They don't ask you like for, any ID or anything. You just have to register, then you show up, and then you can have, you can participate in conversations with people that have been in the public policy arena for like 20, 30 years. They are experts. Sometimes they are presenting studies and then just hold these meetings just to get opinion from different people on what they are doing. So you can participate on those events. And I think that was also very important for me. So every time I get like emails like from people that they are kind of deciding between programs, I will say, yeah, but don't forget that in the case of Georgetown, it is in DC. That is not a small thing. The advantage that you have, it's not that you're going to have lots of free time to attend these events, but then when you have the chance, you will really appreciate that opportunity. Okay, and with that, now I'm done. Now you can answer whatever you want.
Thanks, Ingrid. Yes, go ahead and you guys can type in questions, and then we'll try to answer them. Alejandra, how long do we have for the webinar? Okay, so Lucia asks, I'm thinking about applying in the Master of Policy Management. Okay, so you're looking at the mid-career program. I know that one of the main points is work experience. Can you tell me more about what kind of work experience the program is looking for? And another question is about the McCourt Scholarship. Can you tell me more about this? Sure. So for the NPM, we are looking for folks that have substantial experience in policy. We do have a one-sheeter. I'm trying to find it on our website right now. That kind of outlines and has some information about different organizations that these students have come from. I'm trying to find it so I can read off. But we do have, students that are coming from the international community and also from domestic community, and they've kind of been working in government, or they've been working in policy consulting, or they've been working in a certain NGO, or have done policy research. So they've just held a wide variety of different positions, but they've been in the policy kind of sector, so they can kind of speak to it and collaborate with their classmates based on their experience. And so they're just trying to gain additional skills, maybe kind of understanding a little bit more of the quant aspect of it, and then also kind of, working with other students that kind of have similar but different experiences, and then learning different theories and management techniques to apply as they move forward into policy leadership positions. I can forward you, I don't want to take up too much time, Lucia, but I can forward you the, after this, the one-sheeter, and so you can kind of take a look. It is like a wide variety of backgrounds that we accept to McCourt, so in all of our programs. And then for the McCourt scholarships, these students, they're our most competitive scholarships, and they're our most competitive candidates. They tend to, have very strong academic credentials, and then also have demonstrated some sort of leadership ability or potential. So tend to have a little bit more work experience than than some of the people coming from undergrad. So they're just are a little bit more well-rounded applicant, and just show a lot of leadership potential, and you can, see them kind of moving forward into a policy leadership position. So we don't really have like a set profile or criteria that we look for, but they do tend to be our strongest candidates. Are there any other questions?
Can you hear me, Lindsey?
Yes, I can.
Oh, okay. I don't know why before I tried talking, you didn't hear me. All right, guys. Anyone else wants to have more questions for Lindsey for you to answer regarding the experience? Perhaps if you have any questions for Ingrid as well regarding her experience, anything about related to the admissions process, please go ahead. We'll give you a couple of minutes for you to formulate your questions if you have one. I have a question, Lindsey. In
Sure.
terms of the recommendation letters, who is a very good recommender? In terms of who should be my the person I ask to recommend me.
So it should be people. So basically, we kind of have people that are asking if it should be. Maybe someone that's in a prominent position, and if names matter. And I would actually say that it's the person that knows you the best. So it may be like a high-profile person writes a letter, but it's like a paragraph. That doesn't tell us anything about the student. So we are really looking for people that can speak to your skills and abilities, and kind of maybe your work ethic, and your strengths, and how they could see you succeeding in a master's program. So really pick people that know you really well and can kind of speak to your strengths. It doesn't have to be like a famous person. And again, we do prefer one academic and one professional. However, if you do submit 3 professional, just ask them to kind of speak about some of your academic skill sets as well.
Okay. Okay, here's a couple of questions. First, Julio Cesar is asking in Spanish. He's asking, do lawyers have the profile to apply to these kind of programs?
Sure. So we do have some joint degree students. So we do have students that are applying both to the MPP and the law school. If you have completed a law degree and are interested in coming back and pursuing another master's degree, oops, there's a little bit, okay, there you go. There is, we will allow students with a law background to apply. So, that is definitely something we'll take into consideration, and you've completed a master's program, or, a JD program, or law program in your country. And so that will definitely, we'll take a look at that and how well you did there, and it will contribute to all of your application. So yes, we will consider law students.
Okay.
I
Then we have
just wanna.
another question from Juliana. Hi, for master programs, do you need to have 2 years of full work experience?
Just for the MIDP program and the NPM. So for the MPP, there is no work experience requirement. However, students tend to have 2 to 3 years. Doesn't necessarily have to be in policy. Some people have worked a couple of years in a different industry and are using it as a way to pivot. And then others have worked in policy and are using this as a career enhancer. For the MIDP program, it does need to be 2 years of postgraduate relevant work experience, so some sort of international development focus. And then for the NPM, we do require 5 years at least. On average, though, our students tend to have 9 to 10. And I think, Ingrid, did you want to mention something?
Oh yeah, I just was mentioning that, for example, Eliana, so she couldn't join us, but she studied political science in Peru. So in her case, for example, she studied the MPP, and she actually, in her case, her goal was that she wanted to have very good quantitative skills after her master's degree. So in that case, it was also like the perfect program for her. So Julio Cesar, so you are a lawyer, but if that is what you're looking for, then I will encourage you to also apply for the program.
Great. Thank you, Ingrid. Okay, now Rodrigo is asking, hi, I'm thinking of applying in the Master of Public Policy. I took the GRE in 2015 and I got good results. But I read at your website that official English examination results must be taken no later than 1 month prior to the deadline. Is this also for the MPP? Thank you.
So we do need to have so you're talking about the TOEFL score. You can take it as long as you apply by January 15th. If you're interested in being considered for merit-based scholarship, you should apply by January 15th. And as long as the scores get to us by mid-February, you'll still be considered under that deadline. So we're not looking at when you took it, as long as the results can get to us by that deadline. So I'm not sure, I would contact ETS just to kind of get an estimate of when they recommend you taking it, if you need to get it in by mid-February.
Regarding the amount of students that you have each year for the MPP, how many students is the usual or the average for the MPP?
So for the MPP, we get about 125 students that enter each year in the full-time program, and about 20 students that enter the part-time program.
Okay. All right. Does anyone else have any additional questions they would like to be addressed right now?
If you can't think of any right now, you're welcome to follow up with us. I'm going to put our general email address in the chat, and then I'm going to put my personal email there as well. So feel free to reach out to me with any questions that you have about the application process, and I'm happy to put you in touch with any faculty members or other students. We have a list of student ambassadors, current students on our website that you can email directly. Their email address is up there, and it's listed by where they're from, what program they're in, and their policy areas of interest. So feel free to reach out to them for more information. But yeah, just feel free to consider our office as the point of contact, and we're happy to help with anything we can.
Great. Oh, there seems to be another question. Okay, I just want to know where I can find information about the annual fee.
Oh, so we do have, I'll post this in the chat. We have a tuition and scholarships page on our website. Here we go. that tuition is about a little under $50,000 a year. So here is more information though.
While you're doing that, and while we answer a couple more questions, I wasn't sure if I understood or I heard correctly. What was the average score that for the GRE that students admitted to McCourt get?
For the GRE?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. For the GRE, again, no numerical cutoffs, but we do see on average students receiving a 159 or a 160 on both the verbal and quantitative portions, and then 4.2 on analytical writing.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that. And then Julio Cesar has another question. So, does the knowledge in microeconomics and macroeconomics are required?
So we do have one requirement for the NPP and MIDP programs, which is a Principles of Microeconomics course. So you can apply if you don't have that course and be accepted conditionally, just meaning you would need to take the course before you start the program and from an accredited university and receive a B or higher. So you would need to take it for a grade. And that's microeconomics. There's more information. I'll put it in the chat about our microecon prereq. If you don't have it, we'll look at maybe other quantitative coursework that you've taken, or maybe weigh your GRE quantitative scores a little bit more heavily. We're just trying to make sure, we want our students to succeed, so we want to make sure they have the skill set and the foundation to succeed in the program.
Okay, so if an international Peruvian student applies and they don't have these prerequisites, so they're admitted with this conditional that they will take this class, can they take it on a university here in Peru, and this can be just that class and then accredited?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Great. All right, everyone. If nobody else has any additional questions, we're gonna finish for today. I want to thank Lindsey, Monson, and Ingrid Rojas for being with us tonight and giving us all this helpful information. And thank you, everyone, for being with us tonight as well. So
yes, thank you guys. Thank you so much for setting this up, Alejandro. This was great. So I was glad to connect with all of you.
Yes, thank you. And here's Lindsey has also written down their links to their webpage, and here's also their email address. And below you can also find my email address and my colleague Kelly's email address for any additional questions regarding EducationUSA. All right. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Lindsey. Thank you, Ingrid. Have a great night.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks, Ingrid.
You're welcome.